But some people, especially the young priests in my home parish, probably saw something in me.
Pope Francis also made news over the weekend after a recent interview was released. He says that in case of medical impediment, he has already signed his resignation and has given it to one of the Vatican cardinals. As per insiders, Pope Francis has finally chosen his successor, but the decision has taken an unexpected turn. While many considered Cardinal Luis Tagle the leading candidate, shocking revelations about his dark past have surfaced, leaving the Catholic community stunned. Known as one of the Church's most respected leaders, these revelations have shifted focus from his achievements to his past, raising serious concerns. So, what secrets have been revealed? Will Pope Francis still stand by him as a potential papal successor? Pope Francis has been at the helm of the Catholic Church since 2013. Born Jorge Mario Bergoglio in Argentina, Francis has spent his papacy focusing on issues of compassion, inclusion, and social justice. From addressing global poverty to advocating for environmental stewardship, he has redefined the Church's role in the modern world. But as he ages, speculation about his successor has intensified. At 88 years old, Pope Francis continues to lead with energy, but even he acknowledges the limits of time. The role of the Pope demands immense responsibility, and the Church must prepare for the inevitable transition. While there is no official public process for selecting a successor, certain traditions provide insight. The decision ultimately lies with the College of Cardinals, who gather in the Sistine Chapel for a conclave after the current Pope steps down or passes away. However, the choices Francis has made during his tenure, particularly in elevating key figures, hint at the kind of leader he envisions for the future of the Church. One name that has frequently emerged in discussions is Cardinal Luis Tagle, a charismatic and highly respected figure. Tagle has many of the qualities Pope Francis values. Born in the Philippines, Tagle has been a vocal advocate for the poor and marginalized, aligning closely with Francis's priorities. Known for his engaging personality and theological depth, he has been a global ambassador for the Church, bridging cultural and ideological divides. Francis and Tagle share more than just a vision for a compassionate Church. Their relationship has been marked by trust and collaboration. In 2019, Francis appointed Tagle as head of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, which is a role central to the Church's mission work. This position places Tagle at the forefront of spreading Catholic teachings worldwide. Additionally, Tagle's leadership of Caritas Internationalis, which is a humanitarian arm of the Church, further demonstrates his alignment with Francis's vision of service and inclusion. Their shared priorities and close collaboration have led many to see Tagle as the natural successor to Pope Francis. Over the years, his prominence in Church leadership has grown, and his public appearances often reflect the same approachable and humble demeanor that has endeared Francis to millions. Tagle's rise has not been accidental. It is the result of a clear alignment with the values that Francis has championed throughout his papacy. For a time, it seemed that Tagle's path to the papacy was all but certain. His growing influence, combined with the Pope's clear trust in him, made him the leading contender in the eyes of many observers. He was praised for his ability to address complex theological issues while maintaining a deep connection with ordinary people, a quality often seen as essential for modern Church leadership. However, recent revelations have cast a shadow over this once clear trajectory. Reports have emerged about Cardinal Tagle's past, and these revelations have surprised many who admired his integrity and dedication to the Church. What exactly has been revealed about Cardinal Tagle's past, and how will these revelations impact his chances of becoming the next pope? In late 2022, Pope Francis made a dramatic move that shocked the entire Catholic Church. He dismissed the top leadership of Caritas Internationalis. This decision, which included the removal of Cardinal Luis Tagle as president, was unexpected and raised significant questions about the internal workings of the Church. While the Pope's decree stated that the overhaul was necessary to address administrative and procedural shortcomings, it left room for widespread speculation about the true motivations behind this unprecedented shakeup. Caritas Internationalis is one of the most prominent humanitarian organizations associated with the Catholic Church. It operates in over 200 countries, and its mission revolves around providing aid to those in need, from disaster relief to long-term development programs. Under Cardinal Tagle's leadership, the organization became a symbol of the Church's commitment to the marginalized, aligning closely with Pope Francis's vision of a church for the poor. However, in November 2022, Pope Francis issued a decree dissolving the leadership structure of Caritas. The decision followed an external review commissioned earlier that year, which revealed deficiencies in management and morale among the organization's staff. Cardinal Tagle, who had served as president of Caritas Internationalis since 2015, was not personally implicated in any wrongdoing. However, his role as the organization's figurehead put him at the center of the controversy. The Vatican's decision to dismiss the entire leadership team rather than targeting specific individuals raised eyebrows and led to speculation about whether the public was being told the whole truth. Tagle was tasked with announcing the Pope's decree to the organization's staff. It was an awkward position for someone so closely associated with its leadership. While he was retained as a liaison to assist in the transition to new leadership, this diminished role was seen by many as a demotion. Critics questioned whether the move reflected poorly on Tagle's ability to manage such a significant global organization, particularly given his reputation as a potential successor to Pope Francis. The decision sparked intense debate within the Catholic community. Supporters of Pope Francis argued that the overhaul was a necessary step to address systemic issues within Caritas and ensure its long-term effectiveness. They pointed to the Pope's broader efforts to reform the Vatican bureaucracy and create a culture of accountability as evidence that this move was in line with his vision for a more transparent church. However, others saw the decision as a power play, possibly driven by internal politics within the Vatican. Some speculated that the overhaul was orchestrated by Cardinal Michael Czerny, head of the dicastery for the promotion of integral human development, which now oversees Caritas. Critics suggested that Czerny's influence within the Vatican could have played a role in sidelining Tagle and reshaping the organization to align with his own priorities. Former Caritas Secretary General Michael Roy openly criticized the decision, calling it incomprehensible and questioning the need to remove the entire leadership team. Roy argued that the problems identified in the review could have been addressed without such drastic measures, and he expressed concern that the move undermined the organization's credibility and morale. For Cardinal Tagle, the Caritas overhaul represented a significant challenge to his once stellar reputation. Known for his charisma and progressive vision, Tagle had long been considered one of the most influential leaders in the church. His ability to connect with people on a personal level, combined with his theological depth, made him a favorite among those who admired Pope Francis's reformist approach. However, the controversy surrounding Caritas raised questions about Tagle's leadership abilities. Critics suggested that while he excelled as a pastor and theologian, his administrative skills may not have been strong enough to manage an organization as complex as Caritas. This perception could have significant implications for his chances of being chosen as the next pope, as the role requires both spiritual leadership and the ability to oversee the vast bureaucracy of the Vatican. The Caritas Internationalis overhaul is not just a story about one organization or one leader. It reflects broader tensions within the Catholic Church. Pope Francis's reform efforts have often been met with resistance from more traditional factions within the Church, and this decision added fuel to those debates. Critics of the Pope saw the move as another example of his tendency to centralize power and sideline those who might challenge his vision. The Caritas overhaul occurred in the context of other significant developments within the Church. Around the same time, Pope Francis continued to push for reforms aimed at addressing abuse scandals, financial mismanagement, and other long-standing issues. These efforts have included changes to the Vatican's financial oversight structures and the promotion of more diverse voices within church leadership. The overhaul also came amidst growing speculation about Pope Francis's eventual successor. While Tagle was once seen as a leading contender, the controversy surrounding Caritas has added a layer of uncertainty to his candidacy. Not only this, but the overhaul of Caritas Internationalis in 2022 has highlighted the intricate and often opaque power dynamics within the Vatican. The power struggle speculation quickly arose that the decision to remove the entire leadership of Caritas, including its high-profile president Cardinal Luis Tagle, was not solely about managerial shortcomings. Many observers believe the move was influenced by a deeper power struggle centered on key figures and factions vying for influence over the Church's future direction. At the heart of these speculations is the dicastery for the promotion of integral human development, a powerful Vatican department led by Cardinal Michael Czerny. This dicastery, established by Pope Francis in 2016 as part of his broader reform agenda, is responsible for issues related to justice, peace, migration, and development. Following the Caritas overhaul, the dicastery assumed direct oversight of the organization, raising questions about its role in the decision-making process. Critics suggest that the dicastery's growing influence under Cardinal Czerny might have played a significant part in the shakeup. Czerny, who shares Pope Francis's progressive vision but has a reputation for meticulous organizational control, is believed to have advocated for changes in Caritas's structure. Some argue that the overhaul was less about addressing the alleged governance issues at Caritas and more about consolidating control over the Church's humanitarian operations. One of the most vocal critics of the Caritas overhaul was M. Roy, a former Secretary General of the organization. In public statements following the decision, Roy suggested that Cardinal Tagle may have been a victim of internal Vatican politics. Roy argued that the alleged deficiencies in Caritas's management, as outlined in the external review, could have been addressed without the dramatic dismissal of its entire leadership. Roy's comments fueled speculation that the overhaul was less about solving problems and more about sidelining Tagle. He pointed out that the review found no evidence of financial mismanagement or moral misconduct, which made the complete restructuring seem excessive. Cardinal Tagle, once seen as a close ally of Pope Francis and a potential successor, found himself in a precarious position after the overhaul. While the Pope retained him as a liaison to help with the transition, his removal from the leadership spotlight was viewed by many as a significant demotion. Tagle's diminished role led to questions about whether he was being deliberately sidelined by those who viewed his rising influence as a threat. His association with Keatis's alleged management issues provided an opportunity for his critics to cast doubt on his leadership abilities. This narrative, whether intentional or coincidental, has likely impacted his standing within the Vatican's power hierarchy. The Keatis overhaul highlights Pope Francis's leadership style and the challenges he faces in managing the Vatican's complex structure. Francis is praised for his focus on reform, transparency, and accountability, but his decisions have not been without criticism. By placing Keatis under the control of the dicastery for the promotion of integral human development, Francis showed his readiness to make bold changes, even if it disrupted established norms. Critics, however, argue that his approach can sometimes seem too forceful, leaving little room for open discussion. This decision also reveals the difficulty of balancing Francis's goals for collaboration and inclusivity with the realities of church governance. The centralized nature of the overhaul highlights the tension between his ideals and the practical challenges of leading a global institution with competing interests. The Keatis controversy reflects the broader political struggles within the Vatican. The Church is not a single unified body, but a collection of factions with different visions for its future. These divisions, shaped by ideological, theological, and cultural differences, often result in clashes over major decisions. Cardinal Tagle, closely aligned with Francis's progressive agenda, has become a polarizing figure. While many admire him for supporting the Pope's vision, others, particularly conservatives, view him as too liberal. The Keatis overhaul, intentional or not, has brought these divisions to the forefront and exposed the difficulties of navigating Vatican politics. Power struggles within the Church are not new, though. During the Second Vatican Council, progressive and conservative groups fiercely debated the Church's future direction. More recently, Pope Benedict XVI's resignation in 2013 highlighted the strain of Vatican politics. His decision was partly influenced by internal divisions and his struggles to manage the Curia. Pope Francis has tried to tackle these issues through reforms, but the Keatis controversy shows that these challenges persist. However, it is not just Pope Francis who has faced challenges. Cardinal Luis Tagle has had his own share of problems. What does his leadership in the Philippines tell us about the challenges he has faced and his future in the Church? Present criticisms. As Archbishop of Manila, Tagle was seen as a compassionate and forward-thinking leader. However, his involvement in political matters, especially during the presidency of Rodrigo Duterte, sparked criticism and controversy that continues to follow him. Tagle's vocal opposition to Duterte's policies, particularly the violent war on drugs, drew significant attention. Thousands of extrajudicial killings during Duterte's term shocked the world, and Tagle was one of the few prominent voices speaking out against it. He called for respect for human dignity and due process, emphasizing the Church's role in defending life. These statements resonated with many who opposed Duterte's administration, but also put Tagle at odds with the president and his supporters. Duterte, known for his aggressive rhetoric, was quick to attack Tagle and the Church. He accused Church leaders of hypocrisy and meddling in politics. His harsh words were part of a broader campaign to discredit the Catholic Church, which has historically been influential in Philippine society. Duterte's attacks on Tagle and other bishops created a tense and polarized atmosphere, with some viewing Tagle as a courageous defender of justice and others seeing him as too politically involved. Critics argued that Tagle's involvement in political matters blurred the line between the Church's spiritual mission and political activism. The Catholic Church in the Philippines has a long history of engaging in politics, most notably during the 1986 People Power Revolution that ended Ferdinand Marcos's dictatorship. While many saw this as a proud legacy, others believed that the Church should remain neutral in modern political disputes. Tagle responded to these criticisms by framing his actions as a moral obligation rather than political interference. He emphasized that the Church's mission is to protect the vulnerable and speak out against injustice. For Tagle, addressing the violence of Duterte's drug war was not about taking sides but about defending the sanctity of life. Still, not everyone was convinced, and some felt that his statements risked alienating parts of the population who supported Duterte's policies. Tagle's political involvement also drew attention to the broader role of the Church in public life. In a deeply Catholic country like the Philippines, the Church wields significant influence, but this can also lead to accusations of overreach. Tagle's actions reignited debates about the separation of church and state, with some arguing that the Church should focus on spiritual matters rather than political ones. Pope Francis's influence on Tagle's leadership cannot be overlooked. Francis has consistently encouraged the Church to advocate for the poor and marginalized, values that align closely with Tagle's approach. As Archbishop, Tagle mirrored Francis's vision of a compassionate and socially engaged Church. His vocal opposition to injustice reflected the same priorities that Francis has championed on the global stage. Francis's trust in Tagle became even more evident when he appointed him to key roles within the Vatican, including as head of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples. This move was seen as a sign of Francis's support for Tagle's leadership style and his potential as a future leader of the Church. However, it also made Tagle a target for critics who viewed his actions as an extension of Francis's reformist agenda. The controversy surrounding Tagle's tenure as Archbishop, combined with the recent issues at Caritas Internationalis, has complicated his reputation. While many admire his commitment to social justice and his willingness to speak out, others see these controversies as evidence of his inability to separate the Church's spiritual mission from political concerns. This tension raises questions about how Tagle's past might influence his future within the Church as a potential papal successor. His leadership in the Philippines could be seen as either a strength or a liability. On one hand, his advocacy for the poor and his alignment with Francis's vision make him a strong candidate. On the other hand, his political involvement and the criticism it has drawn could raise doubts about his ability to unite a global church with diverse perspectives. Tagle's experience in the Philippines reflects the challenges faced by church leaders who engage with social and political issues. While his actions were rooted in moral principles, they also highlighted the fine line between addressing injustice and being perceived as partisan. This balancing act is one of the key challenges for leaders like Tagle, especially in a world where the Church's role in public life is constantly evolving. Given the recent rumors and developments, discussions about Pope Francis's successor have taken center stage. The recent controversies surrounding Cardinal Luis Tagle, who was once considered a frontrunner, have added uncertainty to the already complex dynamics of papal succession. So how will these events affect the eventual choice of the next leader of the Catholic Church? Speculations on papal succession have been ongoing for years. Cardinal Tagle's close alignment with Pope Francis's vision made him a strong candidate. His reputation as a humble, compassionate leader who champions social justice has mirrored Francis's approach. However, recent revelations about his leadership at Caritas Internationalis and debates over his political involvement in the Philippines have raised doubts about whether he remains the favored choice. These controversies have shifted attention to other potential contenders within the Vatican. Among them, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Vatican's Secretary of State, is often mentioned. Parolin is a seasoned diplomat known for his ability to navigate complex geopolitical landscapes while maintaining the Church's interests. His calm and pragmatic leadership style contrasts with Tagle's more pastoral and emotional approach, making him a strong contender for those seeking stability and continuity. Another name frequently discussed is Cardinal Robert Serra, who represents the Church's more traditional wing. Hailing from Guinea, Serra is admired by conservatives for his firm stance on traditional doctrine and liturgical practices. His leadership would signal a shift away from the progressive reforms of Pope Francis, appealing to those who wish to return to a more traditional vision of Catholicism. Cardinal Christoph Schonborn of Austria is another possibility. A moderate figure, Schonborn is respected for his intellectual depth and ability to bridge the gap between progressives and conservatives. His leadership could offer a unifying path forward for a divided church. Cardinal Michael Czerny, a close ally of Pope Francis and head of the dicastery for the promotion of integral human development, has also emerged as a potential candidate. His strong focus on issues like migration, climate change, and social justice aligns with Francis's priorities, making him a likely choice if the College of Cardinals wants to continue the current pope's legacy. The choice of the next pope will reflect the Church's vision for its future. Will it prioritize continuity with Francis's progressive reforms, or opt for a return to tradition? What do you think? Who is most likely to become the next pope? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this unfolding story.